Welcome to Church of the Chair, where we celebrate all the things we do while seated. I'm your host, E, and today we're talking to J.B. Taylor about his new book, Into the Mouth of Madness. Did I get that right?
Yep.
I keep wanting to say at the Mountains of Madness, but that's H.P. Lovecraft, and that's not why we're here today. I don't know why. I just keep doing that. But JB, how you been, man? It's been a long time since we talked.
It has been a long time, man. It's good to be hanging out with you again. I've been good. Been keeping busy.
Awesome.
Grinding up the word counts and just doing my thing. I've just started a fantasy like a couple weeks ago, and I'm digging it. So
Cool.
just keeping
Great.
busy.
All right, so what I'm going to do right off the bat. Hello, Solvents. How you doing? Right off the bat, I am actually going to go in and I'm going to read the description of the book that JB sent me. Right off the bat, I let you guys know I have not read this book yet. I do plan on reading it. I am just so far behind, but I did read and absolutely loved his last book, Unplugged. Have you had anything else out between those two books? No. Okay.
Not a novel. I had a very small story in Something Bad Happened.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Put out by,
but no other novels, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, I believe I've either read it. I can't remember how many stories I've read out of that, and I'm not sure if I've read yours. But
Good.
hopefully I will get to it at some point in time, because short stories aren't really my thing. I never have been. I write them, but I just don't consume them. In fact, I've been reading. Before we go on, I've been reading the same short story collection by Haley Piper, who I absolutely adore. Love everything by her. But I've been reading her, I think, Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy, something like that. It's like a 250 page book. I've been reading that ever since it came out, and it came out like 3 years ago. Oh. So every now and again, I'll pull it off the shelf and read it. And I do the same thing with, I think Diet Riot, Sonora Taylor put that one together. Same with Something Bad Happened, Jen and wasn't it a collaborative effort? I can't remember, or is it just her press that put it out?
It's her press that she pretty much put it all together, but everyone contributed like stories and also artwork too, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
All right, so here is the synopsis of Into the Mouth of Madness. After defying the warlord in control of his home planet Veladon, Eckta is sentenced to an eternity of suffering. When his pod crash lands in the Daedalus crater of Earth's moon, he expects he will remain there forever. His pod, however, is emitting a pulse. And from her station at the Seti, is that correct? Seti Institute, Abigail Murray is about to hear something that will change her world forever. Proof of alien life. First off, that's topical, my dude, because we're dealing with that right now. In real life. In real life. If you haven't heard it, you'll need to go out there and Google it. After discovering Eckta's astonishing abilities, will Earth permit the stranger a peaceful life? I really love that. That brings me in. That one line. I like to tell people things that hook me. It's the after discovering Eckta's. I'm saying Eckta's. Am I saying it right? Eckta's?
Eckta.
Eckta. Okay.
Yeah.
Eckta's astonishing abilities. Will Earth permit this stranger a peaceful life? I like that. That's a nice hook. Or will their ambition and greed get the better of them? Eckta will bring humanity new possibilities, new hope, but his people are not to be reckoned with, and they are coming. Will Earth be ready? The very first thing I want to ask you is, where did this idea come from? It's got sci-fi, horror, thriller elements, all of that stuff. Was there a seed, or did you just start writing? What happened with that?
There was a movie with David Bowie in it a long time ago. And I apologize if you can hear my AC, but it's like 105.
Oh, I got mine on too. So fuck it. We're not about to be sweating all streams. So be as comfortable as you want to. Are you talking about The Man Who Fell to Earth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I honestly, I caught like maybe 40 minutes. I think I was like on my way out to go to an appointment or something. And it just kind of stuck in my head. And I thought that'd be kind of neat if that actually happened. But like if maybe he was a pacifist and he was put into a situation where someone with power realized that if we utilize this person the right way, we can get a lot from him. Kind of like how there's talk about alien crafts and how they crash, and we can maybe reverse engineer. They have that idea with him, but you know, with certain aspects of him. And I thought, what if he was a pacifist and he was forced to be unlike himself? What if he had to go against the grain? The whole reason why he was, sent away from his world is because he doesn't want to fight. He's not a fighter. So it's like,
it's called a conscientious objector. Is what it's called, because you can even get out of military service here in America because you can say that I don't believe in violence, and they have to respect that if it's based on religious principles. So I find that interesting. But yeah, continue on. What I'm kind of focusing in, and I don't want any spoilers.
Right.
But I'm really focusing in on the idea that he has left his planet because he is a conscientious objector. And then he gets to Earth, and what you're saying is now Earth wants to use him for warfare, and he's still on the fence kind of deal? Can you give me more details without going into spoiler territory?
Without spoiling, he is held against his will, and it's really hard to.
Okay, all right. Well, if you can't do it without spoiling it, I don't want to spoil your book for you. As always, you have very unique names here. You have Eckta. You have the planet of Veladon. Is Veladon based off anything that actually exists, or did you just go whole hog with the make believe?
Typically, what I like to do is I like to use Latin. And I think it might be Latin. It's just been so long since I came up with the name that I genuinely forget. But that tends to be my first go-to is Latin. What I like to do is I like to understand, like, if we're talking about a character, what it is, what the character is all about, like their background, who they are, what kind of person they are, what they stand for. So if that person is courageous and caring, I'll go and look up like what's Latin for caring. Then I'll kind of scroll and see what sounds cool. And with Veladon, it's I honestly don't remember. Maybe I just pulled it out of my ass.
Hey, that's good. That's completely all right if that's the case. And sorry for the face wiping, folks, but it's hot in this office. You know how it is, and it's still daylight. It's still the heat of the day here. It's 6 o'clock. So
yeah.
Anyways, okay. So, go ahead. No, continue, please.
If I don't use Latin, I don't like to go with anything that's been heard before if I can, which is really super tough.
Yep.
But definitely. I don't know. I don't want it to be like John. There's nothing wrong with John, but he's an alien. You can't name him John.
I completely agree with you. In fact, I remember reading this one book, and I thought this was rather cool. But it was throat sounds instead of names. Mm-hmm. It was I can't remember what the name of the book was at this point in time. It's been years. It's been over a decade since I read it. But it was literally pretty much just they had to write it phonetically. But it was because the way this planet or whatever, they didn't have English. They didn't have really any language other than like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was one. I do remember one character was just named M because that's the sound that the character made in the back of their throat. Right. But what I'm saying is I agree with you. It's far more believable that you have an alien. Yes, John Haley said, haha, John the alien. But yes, it is far more believable. I had a friend when I was on writing.com who didn't use, we called it vanilla names, who didn't use vanilla names whatsoever. But at the same time, it's like American characters and not a sci-fi make-believe setting named something like this cuckoo or something like that. It's just that makes less sense to me than something. But I agree with you as far as that's concerned. If you're gonna go alien, you got to do something different. Even if it's just a rearranging of word, letters in a word to make something new.
Yeah.
So with this one, I know you are a big big fan of inclusion and inclusivity, that kind of thing. Is this book as queer as some of your older stuff?
There are inclusive characters in it, but because of the pace, I can't. I didn't really have the avenues to really explore that. But where certain characters to get their own story, it would be very apparent. But basically, my thought process going in was just how lonely Eckta is.
That makes
And
sense.
that was just kind of the driving force. Originally I wanted it to be a metaphor for autism, but once I started the story, I realized that there was aspects of that to it, but really it was just an exploration of isolation and sadness and what it can do to your psyche, and how despite how bad things can be, it doesn't have to change who you are. And Ekta's my goal was for him to be like kind of living proof of that. It's like dark times make you better sometimes. And I just wanted him to be a driving force for that.
So with Eckta being an alien and humans being pack animals, community, what's Ekta's home world like? Is it a community based situation there?
Yeah, basically, you're required to have a certain amount of military training just because of where they are, and this will be explored in future stories. I'm not like teasing because it'll be a while before I get to that, but
I got you.
There are things that are required of you because of where the planet is. There's a lot of traffic, so you need to be able to defend your homeworld. But primarily, it's a peaceful place. There is a community, and everyone's, they're very advanced. It's not as judgmental. It's kind of hippie-ish, but you don't really get to see that because a warlord has gained power, and he's pushing to control a great amount of territory. This is like kind of right up front, so it's not really a spoiler. So you don't really get to see how good it is. But before he came along, yeah, it's a pretty sweet place to live.
Cool. All right, so we have Eckta is not only a pacifist, but would I be going out on a limb calling him a loner?
Definitely a loner.
Definitely a loner. Now you mentioned. Sorry, you mentioned. I'm just very interested in this topic. You mentioned seeds of autism. There, is he a loner because he is misunderstood, or is it just a matter of he does not like? Do people stay away from him, or does he stay away from people? I guess is what
he stays away from people. He's very sensitive to emotion, which is something that I plan to explore even more in future, possibly. He kind of just understands people. He knows.
So he's empathic.
Yeah, to an extent, he just knows a dick when he basically, and he just a lot of people are fine, but it just got to the point where he felt better away from people because things were getting bad and he just wasn't comfortable. So he said, "You know what? I'm just gonna chill over here for a while." He doesn't hate people. He kind of like how I am. This is where I am in the character. I don't mind people. I would just prefer not to be around too many people.
I think a lot of us not sympathize with that, but solidarity definitely. Yeah. There's definitely some solidarity there. So you're definitely planning a series with this one. How many books are you looking at in total, just to give people a feel for what they can look forward to?
One for sure. More than not more than likely, it's definitely a prequel. Because I want to go and I want to explore him more, because I think there's a lot to cover. But I I would like I told myself because with Unplugged, I kind of wrote myself into a corner. That's why Unplugged 2 hasn't come out yet, and probably
I
won't.
was going to ask you about that next. So if you want to
Um,
go ahead and answer that question after you answer this one, you can go ahead.
Absolutely. It's just like I didn't want to wrap myself into a corner with this one, so I was like, it's going to end a certain way, and if people like it, then I'll find a way to continue it. And if it's just kind of okay, well, it's not a bad story, but it's not a barn burner either, then I'll go back and for my own self, for my own bit of fun, I'll write his backstory. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, there's definitely more to the story.
Have you considered, just throwing this out there, I'm not trying to give advice or anything or even like plot points,
Right.
but one of the major complaints from like the Transformer series is we
Mhm.
haven't spent a whole hell of a lot of time on Cybertron. Would you consider doing something, with going back? You mentioned a prequel possibility, so would that be 100% Veladon?
Yeah, it would be 100% Veladon. You would see it at its best, its people's best, and at its best societally. You'll see it at its greatness and what Earth could be if we just kind of put aside our bullshit and just had common sense. Even 50% of the time, it would be a much better place. You'll see that in Veladon, and then you'll see like the gradual collapse and why Eckta got to the situation that he was in and all that.
Very cool. All right. I guess I want to talk a little bit more about the Unplugged 2, the Unplugged sequel that never came. With Can you tell me what corner? Because I'm struggling with my memory here. I read it. I read the first book and loved it. I believe I said it's the Matrix. It's what the Matrix 4 should have been,
Yeah.
and I still stand by that. But I'm having problems picking out how you wrote yourself into a corner because it did feel like a first in the series book. So
Yeah.
without any spoilers, I want to talk more about Into the Mouth of Madness
Right.
eventually. But
Yeah.
you caught me with that one because I'm sitting here trying to remember how in the hell you wrote yourself into a corner, because everything at the end kind of alluded to we had some stuff to do, like we had places to go now that I don't want to spoil anything now that everything has changed.
Right.
So what corner was it? You can be as vague as you want to be here, but yeah, well, what happened? What corner did you write yourself into?
Corner might not have been the best way to describe it, but basically there are two. There's a mother and there's a father. We have met the father. The problem I found that is getting the characters to the mother, and the way that every instinct I have is telling me you need to unplug another person, and you need to get them out, and you need for them to break things down, and you need that person to meet up with Mac and Aslan and have them join forces. But I'm like, one of the things I hated about the second book in the Giver series, I think that's what it's called, was that it's essentially the first story, kind of.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. So it's like, how do I make it new?
How does John Connolly write 20 books based on pretty much the same damn concept over? How does any thriller author, even going back to like James Patterson or who's another one? Michael Connolly.
Yeah.
Here's, if I may, I would worry less about that, because if someone likes that first book and they are willing to do, as long as there's enough difference, if it's pretty much the same plot line, just with either a new character and new shenanigans going on, that's pretty much every thriller in existence. Now, I respect that you want to do something 100% new,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you might just be giving people what they want.
Okay.
There's a a 5-star cuisine unique meal is great, but sometimes all you want is the same old bowl of ramen. Just saying. There's some comfort aspects there. If I may, you don't have to take the advice. I'm just throwing that out there. Throw you a curveball, something you can think about.
Sure.
But I do respect 100%. I respect not wanting to tell the same story twice. And I've been fighting that for the longest time. I finally gotten to a place where I understand that's what people want, especially reading reviews of books that go to wild fucking places after like a first in the series or even like 10th in the series. Yeah. I think what I point to the most when that happens is John Connolly and his book, The Lovers. You have this entire series up until that point. I think it's like book 12 or something. You have this entire series from only Charlie Parker's point of view. And then all of a sudden in the middle of the series, you have a story that is 100% told from the point of view of Angel and Louis. I still haven't figured out which one because the audiobook calls them both. Earlier in the series, it's Louis, and then it changes to Louis at some point in time, then it changes back. So I'm a little confused there. But if you go and you read those reviews, it's pretty much the same storyline, and Charlie Parker, makes an appearance. It's pretty much the same build-up, same delivery, and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you go back and look at those reviews, and they're like, this isn't a Charlie Parker book. Why is it in this series? Yeah. So it's definitely a slippery slope or a fine line between upsetting someone who is there for a series, expecting one thing and being given another. Yeah. At the same time, I would say that that's where The Matrix screwed up, because The Matrix going to Matrix 4 was pretty much just a read, and they even picked on themselves in the movie that they were just doing the beating a dead horse, doing the same thing, and rebooting the series because it was popular enough to do so. But there's definitely an argument for both sides of the table. Do you want comfort food or do you want a whole new restaurant experience? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
I just to kind of finish up with it. I have a very, very good idea and a very unique character that I know people would like, but it was that hang up of not wanting to kind of do the similar thing. But you definitely. That you definitely made a point there, and that I'm definitely going to reconsider and probably start it sooner rather than later, because I already know what happens to the mother. That's what's been driving me nuts. Is like,
and it's not the same thing that happened with the father. Exactly. So
completely different.
Same setup, different delivery.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm a little biased here, but I am looking forward to the next Unplugged. And when you hit me up, well, you didn't hit me up. JB asked the Discord if anyone was interested in or knew anybody doing interviews. And I thought, because you didn't mention what book it was, I was like, oh, holy shit, maybe it's Unplugged too. So I was like, we certainly do. I would have done it anyways if I had known that it was this one. But I was excited for another adventure in this world, because I'm not a huge fan, and maybe this will make more people go out and buy your stuff, just based off my own preferences. I don't like sci-fi and fantasy. I don't care about it. I would rather watch a movie. I would rather consume it that way, because I have problems. Maybe it's not my problem. Maybe it is the writer's problem, but I have problems picturing those worlds. And unless they're super, and even when they are super highly detailed, I have problems, because then we're stuck on so much detail. When for me in fantasy and sci-fi, it's just a much better visual medium, because I can be spoon-fed these weird worlds. But that being said, I love JB's book. I loved Unplugged. It went places that I did not expect. And the ending I thought was absolutely fantastic. And I was hoping for more. Did you go into this one where'd the title come from? Did you have an idea? Because I'm trying, or if it's a spoiler, please stay away from it. But it really sounds like a horror novel, and I know it has horror elements. But what is the Mouth of Madness, and who's traveling into it?
It's kind of a metaphor.
Okay, that's what I was
For
thinking, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, for yeah. I don't typically go for metaphors because that kind of adds more pressure because you really have to hit the nail on the head, you
Right.
know. But I just thought it was kind of apt because of what happens. It's just you have a pacifist, you have a guy who just yes he can handle his own. You don't want to fuck with him, and you know, fuck around and find out. But
I love it.
he would rather not. He wants to relax. He wants to go hunting. He wants to just chill. But if you make him, he will handle him. You know, he will handle his business. But you take a guy like that who's very chill, who is a pacifist, and you put him into a situation that is very unfamiliar for a guy like him. It's kind of a descent into madness. It's just like, will he break? And if he does, how?
Right.
So it's just
I was wondering. I was wondering if it was something like that, or if it was just giving you, sometimes it helps writers when they see how their work is perceived, even before someone buys it and reads it. The first thing I thought was madness would be Earth. You know, it's the chaos of the human condition, that kind of thing, and being thrust into this weird world that wants to either experiment on him or whatever the details are. And I wish I would have had more time to. I wish I would have had time to read it before we did this, because that's where I do most of my deep dives. But the into the mouth of madness. I remember you talking about this way back on Twitter when I still had a Twitter account.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that I thought of course, was horror, and it does have horror elements in it, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think I'm kind of tricked, not by you, but by my own brain, because when I read Into the Mouth of Madness, I think of the John Carpenter movie. What is it? I can't remember. But then there's also the H.P. Lovecraft one. So I'm immediately taken to a horror situation. I was actually pleasantly surprised that you were still doing the whole sci-fi thing, because you write the type of sci-fi that I want to read. You have a wonderful sense of discovery. You have and this is just me talking JB up at this point. It's a wonderful sense of discovery. It's almost like reading. It's better written than this. Don't get me wrong. It's almost like reading a child's, mind, where you don't have these constraints that some other authors would have. Like you would go to places that are just fucking fun, and I respect that about you. Do you go into these stories trying to make them as fun as possible, or what do you balance more, message or fun or whatever? What do you want to achieve with the books that you write?
Fun. Like, to go back to Unplugged for a second, when I wrote, there are some messages in that. I stumbled upon those, and when I realized that they were there, I kind of went with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So any story that I start, I'm just going in just for fun. Like, I don't force anything. I don't go in thinking, okay, we got to have action on this page. Got to have some bow chicka wow on this page. We got to have some explosions on that page. I want to have fun. I don't know what the next page is going to have because I don't give a shit.
Do you
not right yet?
Do you have just as much fun with slice of life stuff in your stories as you do the action sequences?
Yeah. I enjoy every single aspect because I don't force anything. I have the seed of an idea, and I think, okay, this character could be cool if I don't fuck it up, and this this idea could be cool again if I don't fuck it up. And so I'm just like, okay, we got a seed of an idea. I've been thinking about it for a minute. Let's just go, and I just have fun. I don't force anything. I don't like if I sense a potential message. I just kind of just go with the flow. I don't force it. I just want my characters to sound different, but be unique, and be unique, I should say. And I want the story to be fun. I don't feel the need to like what you were talking about inclusion earlier. Like some people kind of like crowbar that in.
Oh yeah,
That's just,
it happens a lot. Yes,
yeah.
I get what you're saying. You want it to happen naturally.
Yeah, that's why like for this story, like it's not like obvious like it is with Unplugged. It's just I just go with the flow, and I just have fun, and I just goof around. I do have to rein myself in sometimes because there are times when I'm like, okay, get the. Not everyone's gonna be high when they read this story, so maybe just kind of pull.
I love it.
Just
I absolutely love it.
So like there is some reining in, but yeah, I just want to have fun. People want to de-stress, they want to declutter their mind, they don't want to be burdened with too much shit. This story though is kind of dark, so you might fucks with your head a little bit, but yeah, I just like to have fun. I don't consider myself like the most talented writer, so I just go in and try my best to have a good time.
Yeah, let me emphasize this to anybody who has not read JB stuff. Of course, I've only read the one book, but that's one of the things that stuck with me the most is just how much fun and even some. And I do not mean this as offense because there's nothing new under the sun, even though that's
right.
That's a lazy cop out. Sometimes people be like, "Oh, I'm just going to do this thing, to make the story work," when they could try to do something, a little more original. But with you, you have, and I even hesitated saying that it was the story that I wished Matrix 4 would be, because I don't want people making those parallels. Right. But I want to give you credit because it was more fun than the last 3 Matrix movies. It was and that's terrible for the Matrix series, because the last Matrix, well, the third Matrix movie was nothing but like nonstop action. It's just I didn't care. And you gave me a whole new cast of characters. It's pretty much the same setup. You have people who are plugged in, people who aren't, all that stuff. It unfolds in new and various ways that, I thought was amazing. But at the same time, when I bring up the Matrix, when I'm talking about Unplugged, I don't see any difference between that and bringing up Salem's Lot when I'm talking about Dracula, or vice versa, that kind of thing. Because this idea that there's AI worlds, or we're living in a simulation, isn't new to the Matrix either. Right. So but people like to point at things that are bigger products, bigger pop culture iconography, whatever you want to call it, and say that was you're stealing off of that, when that idea has existed ever since those tropes have like technology. People are immediately going to think, what if this is a simulation? We have computers, and the smarter they get, all that stuff. And now you're kind of prescient here, my friend, because Proof of Alien Life, you got this book about Proof of Alien Life. And my next question is going to be, have you been following all the stuff that they're talking about? Now, of course, we don't have proof. We have the government saying there were cover-ups. What do you have to say about that, considering you're in your description, it says Proof of Alien Life is, a big bombshell.
Yeah, I have been following it primarily through TikTok, to be honest. And I think it's fascinating. I'm not surprised. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who was like a whistleblower, like in the 80s or something. I can't remember. Bob Lazar, I think is his name. Like
Bob Lazar?
Yeah.
I think I know who you're talking about. I got like this much knowledge of that. There's
a great documentary of him, and he came out like in the 80s, and a lot of the stuff that he's talked about like over the years has been proven true. And now we have this. It's talking about reverse engineered crafts and stuff like that, and contacts with aliens or whatever. It's fascinating.
You've always been in the mindset that there's something out there.
Yeah, I've seen a UFO. It might sound crazy saying that.
Hey, tell your truth.
But it was in Mannheim, Germany, because my dad was in the military, so we were stationed there. And it was just like the saucer kind of disc thing. It just casually strolling over the military apartment buildings. And I ran home. I was like, I saw this. And I grabbed one of those Sharpies. It was like one of those 90s Sharpies. We popped off the lid and you're instantly high.
Yes.
That
I have a friend who says he doesn't use Sharpies anymore because they took something good out of the recipe, and that just made me laugh. He also stopped using Alka-Seltzer when they took this pseudoephedrine out of it. So you can tell what kind of friend this is. But anyways, continue on. We're talking aliens here. Let's go.
It was I immediately ran home and I drew what I saw, and my mom was like, no, you didn't see that, you didn't see that. I'm not kidding you. Like 6 months ago, we were at my mom's house and we were talking, and for some reason UFOs came up or whatever, and I was like, I saw one. It was in Germany. It was flying over the bases, and you didn't believe me. And my mom was like, everybody saw that. We just didn't want you to be scared. So I went like my whole fucking life thinking like I was batshit crazy or something. So
cover up time. Mom and dad covered up state secrets to protect their child. Yeah, I have never believed. I've never seen anything. So I'm definitely 100% a skeptic.
Right.
But at the same time, it's foolish to believe that we're the only intelligent, or we're the only life forms, whether we be intelligent or not. We're the only it would be. It's also solipsistic to believe that we're the only life forms. But what I always thought was there's a much more likely would be like extremophiles, the bacteria and things that live in volcanoes or that can live in ice, that kind of thing. I thought it was much more likely that we would come across stuff like that than we would, another race of beings out there somewhere along the way. But now, the more that comes out, maybe not. But at the same time, we have, astrophysicists saying that we don't have this proof. We have, the Hubble, we have all that stuff way out there in the depths of space. We have one satellite that's a million miles away from Earth and hasn't caught a single thing. And then there's also the tidbit that people are saying that it doesn't have to be intergalactic or whatever to be an alien. These things could come from our own water. They could come from the depths of our planet, that kind of thing. Because, I mean, every time something new, washes up on out of the ocean, what do people say? That thing looks like an alien.
Yep.
But I thought it was interesting because especially when I read that line, the part about that will change her world forever, proof of alien life. I thought, hey, if nothing else, you might bring some people in just based on the current stuff that's going on in the news. And just like cool. I got all my stuff off of TikTok too. I haven't watched any real news stories on it.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by it. Like, I'm still not 100% certain that it's like aliens. Because look back in the day with I think it's a stealth bomber. Like there was there was images of that and people were dead certain it was alien. It just turns out we had technology we weren't telling people about. So who knows? I don't know. I just find the subject fascinating, and it that David Bowie movie, the Carl Sagan book, Contact. It just those birthed that seed in my mind of what happened. What would we do as a society? What would people of power do? And then what would the alien himself do? So I always found that kind of fascinating. Because I think regardless of who's in office, right or left, I think if once they found out, okay, maybe we can get something out of this guy, I think greed would immediately take over.
Oh, 100%, man. It's like I can't remember what scientist said it, but there are two things for certain if we find alien life. One of them, someone is going to want to have sex with it, and then the second one is someone's going to want to cut it open, and it doesn't matter if they're alive or not. They're going to want to dismember this thing to find out more about it, because humans are pretty much just cats without tails. Our curiosity is far more powerful than our own self-preservation instincts sometimes.
Yep. We do it to everything we come across.
Yeah.
Everything.
Exactly. And it doesn't even have to be an alien because, bestiality exists, all that stuff. We cut up, literally in our science classes, we cut up animals, whether those animals are dead or alive. I know they bring in dead animals for it,
Right.
but what happened, how those animals end up dead anyways. And that's a whole nother discussion. But I do wonder what has happened with the things, because we don't let like Chinese spy balloons fly in our area too long without taking them out. And I do wonder how many, if any of this stuff is true, how many that we have scared off by firing upon it, and then they've never been back, and how many we have actually taken down, if any of this stuff ends up being true.
When I was watching, because I watch stuff like this all the time, and Bob Lazar said that we are in possession of a great many crafts. And there was one documentary that I was watching that said all the sightings started around the time we tested the first nuclear bomb, which I found pretty fascinating. So it's
it could have been a beacon. It could have been something where someone, out in the depths of space with the same technology or better than ours, was watching, and that happened, or they were just watching our area and they just happened. But then again, think about it, we're not even a dust mote in the grand scheme of things of the universe. So is that kind of thing even possible? And who's to say it's not? With a society that might be super technologically advanced to be able to see something like that. It also begs the question: why would they come back if we have taken their spacecraft and we have hidden it away or done whatever to it? Why do they keep coming back, knowing that it's just going to be a snatch and grab situation, and we're not going to let them leave? So, are we actually dealing with intelligent life form? That's the stuff that my mind automatically goes to, because I'm a skeptic of all things, no matter what it is. You can tell me we're having turkey for dinner, and I'll be like, "Are you sure about that?" That kind of thing, I don't believe anything at face value. So the more I look into it, but also at the same time, and I keep saying this, at the same time, how many people have seen Bigfoot? How many people have seen the Loch Ness Monster? And while I believe that you saw something as a kid, what was that thing? There's always that question. And I think being a skeptic is good for us. Because that lets us break down and unfortunately dissect the situation. So that we can, move forward with something without looking like a complete and utter fool. Because I don't think an alien, and I hope they're pacifists. I hope they're exactly like your dude Eckta, because if they're not, we're fucked. If they already have interstellar travel figured out, if they're smart enough to do all that stuff and come down here, who's to say that we wouldn't just be wiped off the face of the planet as nothing more than an invasive species? Because we don't even take care of each other. Why would we take care of people from other planets? So
I agree.
Anything else you want to say on that? We'll get back to books. I'm planning on getting back to books right after that. But is there anything else you want to say on the topic of aliens?
I'm right there with you. Just let's hope they're like Eckta, because fuck.
I do not want an Independence Day or literally any other movie about aliens, except for maybe, what was that one movie? Paul. That comedy. That was a funny movie.
That'd be great.
So, whether or not I talked you into Unplugged 2, what were you planning? What were you planning on doing next? Did you have plans? Were you going to go do I'll just let you talk. What were you planning on doing next? Or do you not even think about what you're doing next?
I'm working on a fantasy. It's called The Chronicles of Aldagot. And it centers around 4 kingdoms who it takes place over thousands of years. It's going to be a long time in the works. Basically, the story is centered around a great thaw. My idea was I thought it would be interesting. Thaw,
like a thawing ice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's ice and snow and just bitter wind. And I thought all these kingdoms have ever known is ice and snow. What would happen if
So summer is coming.
Yeah, if summer comes, yeah, basically. And I thought that'd be kind of neat because they're underground. It's how they've learned to best stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. I thought, okay, you're gonna have diseases. You're gonna have dragons. You're gonna have treasures. They're gonna discover things they didn't know was there, and now there's gonna be infighting. There's gonna be fighting between the kingdoms, and I just thought it would be kind of neat to see how that breaks down.
That is a fantastic fucking idea. Like I have seen sci-fi stuff like that all the time. I mean, we have The Thing, the one of the most famous sci-fi horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
And that game, but that's a great idea. To have an entire planet, world, whatever you have, that suffers a thaw, and that's where your story starts. Because you're talking about alien landscapes. These people have never seen, and that's a damn good idea. And I'm looking forward to that one, especially since you have, like I said before, you have a flair for the fun.
Yeah, so. I've been having a lot of fun with it. There are 4 kingdoms, and one that's not recognized as a kingdom. They're kind of barbarians. Yeah, and one is I went all out. There's a paranormal kingdom. There's like an all female kingdom. There's an all I call them spellcasters, but it's witches and wizards and whatnot.
Yeah,
and then there's humans, and I just thought you put all those people on a thawing world, and just shit starts happening. And that's just literally the start.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have the catastrophe of so much water at one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sudden fucking oceans, that kind of thing. So each one of these, now I don't want to say races, but each one of these cultures are going to have their own like underground civilization. So they don't even have experience with each other, or they do.
There is interaction, usually through messengers, like messenger birds, or they have patrols, because they do have a barbarian issue, because as far as the barbarians are concerned, and also the Mer people, as far as they're concerned, I forgot to mention those. They believe they control the water. The barbarians believe, because they were there first, and honestly they were, that they control all land, and everything was taken from them. So just a lot of pissed off people around all these kingdoms. And I just thought, okay, now there's a thaw, and these people are having to come up. And
that's cool.
Yeah, shit's gonna go down.
So you have a frozen, and I'm here. I am hyping up a book that doesn't even exist yet. But so you have a frozen upper world, like the face of the planet, or the surface of the planet.
Yeah.
But you also have like underground water systems and Mer people living in those underground water systems.
Yeah. There are oceans that are frozen over, but they've always been in the water, so really nothing's changed.
I got you.
For them. And then you have the barbarians who have I have a kingdom here, kingdom here, kingdom here, kingdom here, and then the barbarians are right in the middle, because they kind of been, as each kingdom was born, they were pushed further and further into the middle. And they have to come up, and then they realize, holy shit, we don't know what to do. There are fucking dragons now. Where did they come from? It's been ice for thousands of years. What the hell's going on? I just thought it'd be kind of neat. I was
definitely, it's definitely neat. I agree with that.
I was hesitant. I was hesitant because you have the whole like winter is coming, but for this it's gonna be this summer is coming. You know what I mean?
That was the first thing I thought of, but I'm still open for that. Like I was saying, with it's comfort read or new experience, and that's what I go into with books. Period. What do I want? Something that I think is going to be the same old, just so I have a comfort read, or do I want a completely new experience? The older I get, the more I'm new experience, because I've experienced so much, especially in reading. I've read over 1,000 books in my lifetime, and it's getting to the point where it's hard to find anything that you haven't seen before. There's some people still doing it, But there are more people doing what you did with Unplugged, which is taking an idea and making it their own, and absolutely nailing the concept to the point where you completely forget that this concept has been used by other people. Is what I'm getting at. Go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
That's one of my favorite things about writing is, just escaping and just creating something fun. And I don't take myself too seriously, and I know going in I'm not writing Shakespeare, like a Shakespearean novel. So I'm just like, I'm never going to be that dude. I think I'm good. I think I can provide some entertainment for people. Let's just go in and have a fucking ball. And that's what I try to put across.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with owning that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, popcorn cinema or just stuff there to be fun. Yep. But also to keep you from belittling what you were doing. I know you're not looking for a grand literary experience, but you're helping people because you're helping give people an escape. And while your messages might not be deep, your themes might not be, intergalactic or whatever. Yeah. You're still helping people because you're providing an escape, you're providing a release, you're providing something to these people that, you're giving them time away from this catastrophe we call life. A moment's reprieve from the darkness, as it were. Yeah.
And that's always on my mind, which is why, like, when I was writing Unplugged, there's a scene in the story that involves very specific medical things. That's why I hit you up and for like advice, because like it is escapism, and I do want to get you away from everything that's going on, but I also don't want to insult your intelligence as a reader. I want to have a foundation of believability, and then I'm just going to fuck with it after that. I'm just going to have fun after that.
I love that.
I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking to Andy Weir, and Tyson was like, get the facts right, and then get the basics down, and then have your fun. And that he was praising Weir because Weir did that. And I was like, oh, that always stuck with me. It's like you can make popcorn cinema or however you want to call it, but just don't belittle the reader, because they're going to pick up on that shit. It's like using a gun in a movie, and like it's a six-shot gun, but he fires 12 shots. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Literally growing up, dude, I used to count for the two things I used to do in every single movie, because when I was growing up, every single action movie had one of two things: either they had a gunfight or they had someone who had to hold their breath underwater. So those two things in every single fucking action movie ever, and usually it was the gun, but failing that, there was at least someone having to hold their breath for a ridiculous amount of time. And I would always do, I don't know when it started, but I would always count the bullets. Always. That was always something with me, whether the touch of the tism, whether it be ADHD, whether it be whatever, it might be OCD, something there made me count the bullets. It's like, okay, and that gun only, like you said, that gun is a 6-shooter. My dad watched Westerns all the time. Why is the person with the 6-shooter firing? And then my dad told me something, and this is the point I'm getting to. He goes, just because you didn't see him reload doesn't mean he didn't do it.
Yep.
So that brings me to my next point. Also, with the water thing, I would literally hold my breath as long to see if I could stay down there. But that's what made it believable or not for me for the longest time.
Yeah. Until
I realized that there is no time limit on people holding their breath. Like, some people can hold their breath longer than other people. Yep. So, which brings me all the way to something I'm going to actually be talking about in a video next week. I think it's Monday's video. Let fiction be fiction.
Yeah.
While it's important to have your baseline stuff, also we need the wild shit. The wild shit needs to be there. And I respect people getting the facts right just as much as I respect someone who goes off and writes Bizarro. Because we need, the only way we're going to have new experiences is if people do that wild shit that they're not expecting. And
Yeah.
we have been programmed for so long that if something isn't believable, it must be bad. You see that a lot when supernatural elements are put into books. You know, I'm a huge Stephen King nerd.
Right.
All the time you see constantly, oh, I can't stand that Stephen King made this book Supernatural. It was fine up until that. Supernatural is a cop-out. That's not a rule. That's not
Yeah.
a thing that exists. Just because it can happen in his world or his universe or whatever does not mean that it is that it should be labeled impossible or a cop-out.
Yeah.
Because I have found it is far, far harder to write supernatural stuff than it is real world stuff. Because when you're dealing with something that 100% rooted in the real world, you have to get everything right, or else people are going to nitpick the smallest detail. And then you have to be an expert in every single subject, because let's just say for this book, for Into the Mouth of Madness, you get all of the science fiction stuff right, but all the science stuff right, and you somehow screw up how many miles per hour you can go on a certain road down there on Earth, because your stuff is set on Earth. Someone, let's say a cop reads here, is like, oh, I work in that county, and that's not believable because it's only 45 there, it's not 35. That kind of thing. And I think as a society, as readers, as consumers of entertainment, we kind of need to move past that. Because if not, we are going to end up getting the same stories over and over and over again, because no one is going to want to take chances anymore. So while I agree, I also disagree. Let fiction be fiction sometimes. And I don't think you have that problem, because you got the fun shit down. You got the stuff, the unexpected stuff down. You don't have that problem.
Right.
But for anyone out there listening and watching, don't let expectations dictate your output. Have fun. And I think, unless there's anything else you want to talk about with Into the Mouth of Madness, I think we're done here, my friend.
I just want to say, that I fully agree with that, and just read and have fun, and that's what I try to do. That's why I don't really touch literary, because I know that's not my cup of tea. I know that I'm really good at blowing shit up, man. Having weird aliens and machine overlords and stuff like that. So it's just have fun, and I hope people enjoy the book, because I think it's pretty good. It's different, definitely different.
There is links to. I did not give your. If you want to go ahead and give your social media presence, let everybody know that. But there is a link. There's also the description of the book that we've been talking about, Into the Mouth of Madness, out now by J.B. Taylor. There is a description and a link to where you can go buy the book down there in the doobly-doo. JB, where can people find you out in the world?
I always forget this part. My Twitter handle is @JBTaylor42, and that's where I'm at. And I'm also on Instagram. I'm pretty sure, because I'm lazy, it's the same exact thing. So hold on. I actually know this by now because I use it every day. It's 19 JBTaylor85 for Instagram. And you're gonna get weird pictures of me, because I like making faces, and lots of pictures of my dog, because that's how I get down.
Do you? JB is also a YouTuber. Do you want to plug your Walk Off Sports channel also, please?
If you're into sports, baseball and football, I'll be doing some hockey and basketball as well. It's Walk Off Sports Talk. It's a very chill atmosphere. You aren't going to get like a in-depth, super sports nerd breakdown of stuff. We're just going to chill and watch some sports together. So if you're into that sort of thing, it's Walk Off Sports Talk.
Very cool. I will be tuning in for the hockey stuff. I had no idea that you were going to be covering hockey. I don't give a shit about baseball, football, basketball, any of that stuff, but I love, absolutely fanboy over hockey. So I will be tuning in for that. Also, you have a Discord for the Walk Off Sports stuff that I'm a member of. How can people find you there? Just search for that. I'm not big on Discord. I use Discord, but I don't know how it works. So
same. I literally, one of my subscribers set all that shit up for me.
Same here. we're getting old, JB.
Yeah.
We're getting old, brother.
Yeah. Later on, I will this will stay live, right?
Oh yeah, it'll stay live. What I'll do is you can send me all that stuff.
Okay.
So if you're watching this after the fact, or you can come back if you're watching it live, I'll have JB email all that information to me, and I'll put it in the body of this of this video down there in the doobly-doo, as it were. But thank you so much for coming and talking to me. I'm really looking forward to the book. Like I said, your stories are hella fun. Your concepts are high, but they're still grounded enough that they're just a lot of fun. And I'm so glad to know that Unplugged 2 is gestating, because I'm looking forward to that one. And congratulations on the new release, my friend. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, I'm thankful because it's been like 2 years since I put out Unplugged. I'm just grateful that it boggles the mind that anybody still, wants to read my stuff. So I'm always super appreciative. I'm not knocking myself. I'm just saying it's literally been 2 years. I'm surprised people haven't forgot I write.
Hey, so, I I'm in the same business, brother.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It is a constant grind. It does feel like if you were away for too long that people are going to forget about you. Yeah. But I will also point out authors like Thomas Harris, who wrote the Hannibal series, Donna Tartt, who writes standalone novels. They only write one about every 7 to 10 years. So as long as you're putting stuff out there, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just to give yourself some, I don't know, some a little bit of a boost. If people like your stuff, they're going to be even more excited when they come across something that you've done recently and be like, holy shit, I really dug Unplugged. This dude has a new book out. But yeah, thanks for taking the time with me. Everyone go check out JB's new book. Go buy his new book. Go read it. Go review it. Reviews are important, especially word of mouth. But until next time, all hail the chair. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do.